Chapter 25, Step Technique. Were the Blood Flame members there? Ma Jin muttered, his facial scar becoming significantly distorted. Not just anyone, but a Blood Master. This proves that the incident in Jinpyeong County wasn't a coincidence. Recognizing the importance of the matter, Baek Myo furrowed her brows while Myong, behind her, simply stroked Yunshin's head, impressed. There are traces of the regenerative ability starting but not finishing. It's definitely the Blood Master. For some reason, Hyeon Wonchang showed an unexpected reaction. He neither clicked his tongue nor shook his head in exasperation. He examined the Blood Master and confirmed traces of excessive blade movement. Ma Jin spoke up. This isn't normal. It's an improbable occurrence. Blood Masters aren't that common. Mio slightly nodded her head. This is a matter to be thoroughly investigated, whether in the unorthodox sect or not. The expansion of the Blood Flame sect's influence is a serious issue. If they have developed their techniques to the point of placing a Blood Master in each county, it could mean an increase in the Blood Flame sect's adherents. If their numbers have grown, it's horrifying. Of course. This time, even Myong nodded in agreement. Lightning Flash has achieved considerable merit. It seems incidents follow you. Handling and bringing back such information and achievements will inevitably impact the martial world. The desolate fortress will respond. After staring at him for a moment, Ma Jin spoke again. Yes. You wish to ascend Mount Zhongnan. I am a warrior. I can't help but worry about my niece's safety. Did it sound like a roundabout criticism of the desolate Ma family? Ma Jin's face awkwardly stiffened. With an unusually strained expression, he spoke. We just received the news as well. But the current Mount Zhongnan is in a dangerous position. The Tyrant Sword sect is different from the Blood Flame sect. They cannot be simply called an unorthodox sect. They blend orthodox martial arts and sorcery. They are obsessed with becoming stronger and know no bounds. Baek Myo added. Her slightly raised eyes seemed to hold concern. Yes. More importantly, no mission has been assigned. It is enough for us to do our given tasks. It seemed Ma Jin and Baek Myo did not want to send Yunshin away. Only Myong, next to them, tactlessly defended the youngest of the desolate Ma family. Can't a Grandmaster judge the matter and assign a mission at their discretion? As Baek Myo glared fiercely, Ma Jin continued speaking. To be honest, how can we send you to Mount Zhongnan not knowing if you will return? Pardon. It was a story that naturally made one ask back. However, everyone present except Yunshin seemed to agree. Anyone in the desolate fortress who knows your talent would be worried. Even if it's an unnecessary concern, it's understandable. How can they not covet you, especially with your kin there? There were even rumors about the guests of the manhua sect. Myo and even Myong spoke with expressions of agreement. Yunshin knew Ma Jin had another reason unknown to them. It must have been a concern for him, who had not attached himself to the desolate Ma family. Can the Grandmaster not distinguish between public and private matters? Is the trust one built with the desolate Ma family only that much? He spoke with a calm face. It was a statement that struck a nerve. I have made significant achievements. Please allow me to go. Record this as my sole reward. You're caught in a checkmate. Myong eventually received a blow from Baek Myo for his remark. As Ma Jin, lost in thought, slowly opened his mouth. You are right. It's hard to refuse outright. Let's make a bet. A bet? Take one move of my technique. Just one move. If you counter or avoid it, I'll let you go. To stand out in the martial world, you must have that level of skill. Additionally, I promise another reward. I understand. Amid the astonishment of the group, Yunshin nodded calmly. They headed to the backyard of the guest house. Yunshin, as well as Ma Jin, did not care about the onlookers. It was a place to exchange one move. High-ranking experts from the manhua sect approached, asking the reason. Upon hearing the general situation, many of them cautiously requested to watch the move. Ma Jin granted permission without much concern. Thank you. Manhua sect warriors surrounded them, blocking the common people's view. To witness a move from the Demon Wings Master. Isn't the Supreme Master of the Desolate Fortress comparable to the Chief Instructor? Yu Hyeon asked Cheonju. The leader of the Plum Blossom Swordsmen answered affirmatively and added. In chaotic battles, he is stronger than me. His alias is a Hell Slayer. It means he completely dominates the battlefield. Many elders of prestigious orthodox sects have become spirits at his hands while flaunting their hypocritical wickedness. Even receiving one move looks terrifying. Facing such a high-level expert, one cannot take even a hand gesture lightly. A single move can contain the mystery of instant death. It is different from our old-school warriors who seek the pinnacle in swordsmanship. It is martial arts thoroughly refined for real combat. When thinking of it as the apex of battlefield martial arts, there's nothing more frightening. No matter how talented Yunshin is, it would be difficult. There isn't anyone among our peers who wouldn't be defeated in a single move against such a master. Yu Haion's eyes turned to Yunshin standing opposite Ma Jin. The lightning flash of the demon wings. With his hand lightly resting on the sword hilt, facing the blowing wind. His face showed no significant fluctuations in emotion. Yunshin calmly thought about demonstrating the martial arts he had learned. He slowly opened his mouth. "May I have some time? Take as much as you need. I plan to show you a strike that even a blue uniform would find hard to withstand, so sharpen your senses." It sounded like he was being considerate. However, Ma Jin's standards would be different. The Demon Wings Master. A supreme master of the desolate fortress. They said he was not yet over 30. Yunshin closed his eyes. He observed his body and first awakened his lower dantian. He also woke the dormant qi throughout his body. While circulating qi throughout his body, he also sought to draw out the sense he had realized in the Mantis sect. If it were an ordinary warrior, the experience of that time would have slipped away like catching smoke, requiring focused training to grasp it. But Yunshin was different. Once he had properly felt a sense, it became entirely his from that moment. He didn't need to spend time trying to make a leap with a random event as a catalyst. "I see it." Was this the clone technique of the legendary Monkey King, Sun Wukong? He could perceive Ma Jin's entire body as if even his back were visible. With his unique sensitivity to qi, his sense reached perfection. "I will yield the initiative." Yunshin made a rare joke. Ma Jin, with a slight smile, raised his hand. It was a hand hardened into a thick edge. It was said his martial arts were the essence of the demon's light. He had mastered all kinds of weapons. They said he could skillfully handle any weapon fallen on the battlefield, even a wine bottle rolling on the bar floor. Then, his hands would be the most fearsome. Just by looking at the gathering qi, he could guess. He now understood what it meant that even the white uniform would find it hard to withstand the strike. The density was on a different level. That kind of palm technique could shatter even a thick fortress wall in one blow. "I must avoid it." He made his calculation. If he blocked it clumsily, he would not escape severe injuries. Yunshin completely lowered the hand he had placed on the sword hilt. As the onlookers could not hide their puzzlement, Ma Jin's large frame charged in. Thud! His body movement was straightforward and brutally fast. It felt like a condensed typhoon was rushing in. Even though it wasn't his full speed, it was challenging for Yunshin to turn his body aside. Wham! Ma Jin precisely controlled his movement. A slight twist of his foot reversed the flow of power. At the end of the trajectory of his horizontally slashing hand, Yunshin's head was in its path. Until then, Yunshin observed Ma Jin's movements. A faint blue light flickered across his eyes. With the current body techniques he had learned, he could not escape. The body movements Myong taught were not mere routines but needed a clear intention to open a path. Just one step. Ma Jin's movement paths and power directions drew complex lines in his mind. The Baihui acupoint on the top of his head seemed to burn. What posture, what qi manipulation, at what point should he step? One step to tear apart the whirlwind. At that moment, another dantian seemed to form near his heart. It was a fleeting moment. A stream of Zhong family dynamic training's inner energy momentarily activated his middle dantian. For a brief instant, even stronger qi fueled the creation of a new technique. It wasn't the realm where some supreme masters felt time slowing down. Yunshin's thought process was as fast as a flash. That was all. His innate talent manifested at that moment in the martial arts domain. Step. Whack! As Yunshin took one step, a tremendous force swept his hair up. He then felt the strong wind caused by the explosive power behind him. Dust swirled around, but no one spoke. Everyone present was a master who lived with martial arts. Everyone could feel that Yunshin's step was extraordinary. That step technique. Ma Jin, in the posture of striking, slightly moved his lips. What is it? I haven't seen it before. I simply walked. I saw a way to survive. You are truly incomprehensible. Still the same. I will name it the Splendid Wings Step. Yunshin spoke calmly. The name of the demon wings was not complicated. It originated from the meaning of being the wings of the desolate fortress that exterminated the demons of the Great Ming Empire. The name Huanikbo was different. By including the character Four Wings, it revealed Yunshin's affection for being part of the demon wings. Not only Ma Jin, but even Chong Myong and Baek Miyo's faces seemed to melt away. Ma Jin straightened his posture. He slowly opened his mouth. I allow lightning flashes journey to Vongnan. Wow! Wan Chang, shouting in excitement, rushed over. Brimming with excitement, he lavished praise on the incredibly miraculous footwork. While his body was being shaken by the grip on his shoulders, Yunshin quietly pondered. Splendid Wing Step. It was just one step for now. How far it would extend, he did not know. If it extended to 10 steps, would it reach the realm of the Divine Sword Squad Master? A supreme genius has emerged from the desolate fortress. It's not entirely pleasing, but it's the promising step of an infinitely potential new talent. There's joy in watching over it. Don't reject me when I visit. Amid the admiration of the manhua sect masters and Yu Hyun's envious gaze, they returned to the guest room. Warmth radiated among the masters of the demon wings gathered around. To act alone in the Zhongnan sect, a white uniform will not be enough. Myong smiled brightly as he spoke. What was he talking about now? Yunshin's eyes were filled with curiosity. Chapter 26, Zhongnan Sect, 1. Not enough with a white uniform? What do you mean? Oh, don't misunderstand. I don't have the authority to give you the blue uniform. Neither does our master. Then what? Just a moment. Myong turned to rummage through his luggage. Ma Jin and Miyo watched, looking as if they understood. Soon, Myong pulled out his blue robe and approached Yunshin. I'll lend it to you. The robe flapped widely. Yunshin glanced at the blue robe covering his shoulders and looked up, quite puzzled. I don't understand the significance. Miyo was the one who explained. A white uniform with a blue robe means you are a promising talent recognized by the desolate fortress. It's a significant title. In the martial realm, the term promising talent was not used lightly. It meant you were the best among the juniors walking the path of martial arts. Receiving such a title within half a year of joining the desolate fortress added even more weight. She smiled. It was an enchanting smile despite being free of any personal feelings. You will have the authority to command all the white uniform warriors of the desolate fortress. I was going to give it to you. Yours is too tight at the shoulders. Myong chuckled and looked at Yunshin. If anyone asks, tell them that Ma Jin from Demon Wings recognized you. You won't face much trouble. You can also mention the alias Alluring Sun Sword. I'll consider it as if I gave you the robe too. Thank you. Yunshin bowed slightly. The feeling stirring in his chest was unfamiliar. Ma Jin, who had been watching with a somewhat complicated expression, nodded. It seems everything is settled. The matter of the manhua sect. We'll handle it. Whether you return first or the issue with the Grand Violet Pill is resolved first, I don't know. At that moment, Hyon Wan Chang raised his hand cautiously. May I accompany Master Zhong? While I may not be of much help to the Grandmaster and the blue uniform members, it might be different for Master Zhong. I permit it. After a brief consideration, Ma Jin agreed, saying it made sense. Remember, the matter of Zhongnan has also become a mission of the Demon Wings. Observe the conflict between the Tyrant Sword Sect and the Zhongnan Sect, and consider how their war impacts the common people. You may intervene in any way, but prioritize your lives. We accept your command. Yunshin and Wan Chang bowed. Yunshin's eyes, now stronger, turned towards the southern window. Mount Zhongnan, where one of the prestigious sword sects of the Central Plains was located. His second brother and young niece were training there. He wondered if Hyar was doing well. The annihilation of the Zhong family. If I find the elder Yi Il-sin, will she tell me? The war between the 13 heavens and the 9 great sects. It was also an opportunity to see how his martial skills would fare in the world. Mount Zhongnan was 2 days away. They changed into their desolate fortress uniforms after 2 nights. It was to consider the dignity of the manhua sect. Wan Chang, revived with fresh vigor, burst into a refreshing laugh. He alternated glances at the desolate characters on his shoulders, grinning broadly. This is the life. Yunshin wore the blue robe Myong had given him over the white uniform of the desolate fortress. Wan Chang, looking enviously, commented. White and blue. It suits you very well. It feels a bit awkward. You'll get used to it quickly, Master Zhong. Thank you, Master Haiyan. HM? It wasn't just an empty compliment. Yunshin smiled slightly. He was a grateful person. It wouldn't be easy to follow along on a mission unrelated to his original task without deep affection. The two soon arrived at the entrance of Mount Zhongnan. From afar, they were impressed by the grand and steep mountain scenery, but as they approached the entrance, they felt the unique strictness of a martial arts sect's domain. Warriors were guarding the entrance. They seemed to be warriors of the Zhongnan sect. It appears they are really fighting the tyrant sword sect. Coming down from the main gate to below the mountain. Wan Chang whispered. As the two approached, 2 of the 4 guards stepped forward. Please state your sect and name, and your purpose. As you can see, we are from the desolate fortress. Wan Chang replied leisurely, showing his shoulder. He then gestured to Yunshin. It seemed to mean entrusting the responsibility to the promising talent of the desolate fortress. As soon as they heard the name to desolate fortress, even the warriors standing behind them stepped forward. Yunshin spoke up. I am Zhong Yunshin of the Demon Wings. And I am Haiyan Wan Chang of the Demon Wings, desolate fortress. The warriors examined their clothes and murmured. Their reactions made it clear. The desolate fortress, with its reputation of suppressing the martial world, was not welcomed by other sects. Do you intend to prove your identity with just your attire? One of the Zhongnan sect disciples spoke. His tone was oddly sharp. The 2 from the Demon Wings took out their golden identity plaques from their pockets. The desolate fortress plaques, engraved with a golden wood pattern, were revealed in their hands. It was said to be made by a master blacksmith. Anyone would acknowledge it when they saw the intricate and elegant pattern. The desolate fortress is a great sect. Do young warriors like you act independently? Who would? An older warrior, who seemed to be a senior, stepped forward and interrupted the sharp-tongued disciple. I regret to inform you, but our main sect is in a state of war. You must understand that we cannot blindly trust the identities of strangers. What the hell? Wan Chang's chi flared up in response. A subtle ripple of energy spread through the air. Having passed the desolate exam and adapted to the role of a white uniform of the Demon Wings. Despite his seemingly light-hearted nature, he had inner depth. Truly from the desolate fortress. Satisfied with their reactions, Wan Chang observed, but the Zhongnan disciple shouted angrily. How dare you act so recklessly on Mount Zhongnan? What are these people? Wan Chang looked exasperated. Yunshin, watching quietly, felt a sense of déjà vu. He thought of the Zhong family. When he said he would create and learn martial arts, the first expressions on his younger brothers' faces were not astonishment but something else. Surprise and jealousy. Just like these people. It seems the fight with the tyrant sword sect isn't going well. The pride of the 9 great sects is wounded, and young warriors appear proudly claiming to be from the desolate fortress. Wan Chang's display of force was counterproductive. The warriors of the 9 great sects were known for their deep cultivation. Due to the circumstances and youthful vigor, the Zhongnan sect disciples now appeared no different from worldly young warriors. We cannot trust it. Young people like you posing as warriors of the desolate fortress, especially in these times. The tone grew more resolute. It felt suffocating. Though guarding the gates was an important duty, middle-ranking leaders would not be in charge of security. All those guarding the entrance to Mount Zhongnan were young. Being young, they were energetic, and combined with the pride of being disciples of a prestigious sect like Zhongnan, they held themselves in high esteem. It seemed Wan Chang was recalling that they had family there. Despite the situation, seeing Wan Chang glance at him and suppress his anger was reassuring. Just as Yunshin was about to step forward. Even if they are truly from the desolate fortress, it's still an issue. How could we trust and send them to the great Zhongnan? It seems the famed name of the desolate fortress has faded. Another, who had remained silent until now, spoke harshly. His sharp eyes did not seem to belong to someone of ordinary temper. He had clearly crossed the line. Yunshin placed his hand on his sword hilt. Consider your words carefully. You have insulted warriors of another sect for no reason. He spoke calmly. Zhong Jungsan was a young man with a rough face, wearing a plain martial robe. He was the second of the Zhong family and also a disciple of the Zhongnan sect. Recently, he often pondered how he ended up in such a situation. Even if the annihilation of the Zhong family was like a natural disaster, people's hearts were different. He thought about karma even though he wasn't a Buddhist disciple. Maybe my foolish and incompetent older brother was the reason for our misfortune. He also talked to himself a lot. He was leaning against the roof ridge of the Zhongnan sect surveillance pavilion. The scenery in his sight was truly peaceful. Feather clouds creating gentle waves in the blue sky, the Qinling Mountains stretching out below, and a few bamboo shoots rising above the fence. Sitting on the pavilion's roof, he swung his leg. The clear sound of blue stones colliding brought him a small sense of satisfaction. At the same time, an old voice burst out from below. "You rascal! I told you to fetch the rice water, and here you are idling again." "Ah!" He quickly jumped down and bowed to the owner of the scolding voice. An old swordsman with a stern appearance was sitting on the porch, looking displeased. "I'm sorry, elder. It's exasperating. This sect's swordsmanship and disciples are disappearing." It was something he could say because he was highly respected. Zhong Jungsan bowed even lower. Although the Zhongnan sect was fighting the tyrant sword sect, he was not a warrior capable of joining the 9 great sects' forces. Naturally, he ended up serving the elder. The old man clicked his tongue. "Since the sect has difficulty obtaining supplies, you should go down the mountain and fetch some grains. I can't deplete our food supply. The tyrant sword sect's bastards need to be wiped out soon." "Yes. Elder Zheng, you're troubling the innocent disciple again." A woman's voice suddenly chimed in, and the old man's expression softened slightly. "Manhwa, you've come." "Who?" Jungsan's eyes widened as he saw the approaching figure. She looked to be around 20, transitioning from a girl to a woman. Her beautiful features and clear eyes were striking. The strange feather decoration tied to her black hair caught his eye first. The wide hem of her blue martial robe fluttered with every step. The white sword hanging from her jade-decorated belt gleamed. Weiji Manhwa of the Zhongnan sect. She was also called the Cloud Sword Dragon. It meant a heroic figure of the sword above the clouds. In an era when the title of dragon was typically reserved for men. Zhong Jungsan, who had never seen the Cloud Sword Dragon during the farewell of the Zhong family, used to call the Cloud Sword Dragon great senior brother. Weiji Manhwa was different. The strongest promising talent of the Zhongnan sect, called the Sword Dragon despite being a woman. Zhong Jungsan couldn't even meet her gaze. "Just in time, I needed a porter. Come with me, junior brother." "Zhong." She seemed to forget his name, mumbling it before turning around. The old man gestured for him to hurry, and Zhong Jungsan quickly ran after Weiji Manhwa. They didn't exchange any words until they reached the entrance of Mount Zhongnan. Jungsan found the high-ranked junior daunting, while Weiji Manhwa seemed completely uninterested. "Who?" Zhong Jungsan made a dumbfounded sound. He almost rubbed his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He saw the seniors welcoming guests with an increasingly tense atmosphere. But what mattered to Zhong Jungsan wasn't that. "Yunshin? HM? Do you know him?" Weiji Manhwa finally showed some interest. "Ooh." The sight before him was indeed astonishing. Though he didn't see the sword being drawn, his younger brother was already sheathing it, and the senior's sword was flying backward. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew from the side. Weiji Manhwa had kicked off the ground and was charging forward. Chapter 27, Zhongnan Sect, 2. The astonishment from the incredible swift sword was fleeting as the Zhongnan sect disciples gritted their teeth and placed their hands on their swords. "Stop!" The forest trembled at the celestial voice. An immense presence was felt. Swish! With an overwhelming presence, she descended gracefully like a heavenly fairy. This was the realm of the soaring Grace Zhong divine sword. Yunshin stared at the woman standing in the center, the mediator. She's strong. Her rare beauty did not catch his eye. Her frail body belied the formidable aura she exuded. Just by standing there, her extraordinary skill was evident. "It's quite a spectacle. Your behavior hardly befits disciples of Zhongnan sect. Let's go back and talk." Those in charge of security bowed their heads at her soft words. It was as if a superior was reprimanding them. Only then did they realize their disgrace and blush. "We apologize, Great Elder. We are ashamed to face you." The woman, who nodded at their apology, turned to Yunshin and Wan Chang. "Indeed." Her lips moved slightly. The grass blades brushed by the hem of her fluttering robe split in half. Her entire body's chi was so sharp that it was comparable to the elite of Desolate Fortress. "We are ashamed in front of the distinguished guests from Desolate Fortress." Wan Chang seemed utterly overwhelmed. Since he couldn't believe what he was seeing, Yunshin spoke up. "I am Zhong Yunshin, affiliated with the Demon's Wings. This is Haion Wan Chang, also from Demon Wings. I am Weiji Manhwa of the Zhongnan sect." Her soft words carried an air of authority. Yunshin could clearly feel it. It wasn't a specially projected aura. It was just her natural elegance. This was the first time he felt the grandeur and power of an old sect. "Weiji Manhwa. Ah, the Cloud Sword Dragon of the Zhongnan sect." At Wan Chang's exclamation, he realized the woman's identity. It was said she had cut down the leader of a rogue group in Guangzhou. She was already renowned across the world. Cloud Sword Dragon Weiji Manhwa. Rumor stated that she was a genius who descended from heaven by mistake. Yu Haion of the manhua sect was 16 like Yunshin this year, and Yunshin believed Yu Haion would become like her if he secluded himself in harsh training for about 5 years. She was born and raised in Zhongnan and became a great elder at a young age. That was where Yunshin's opinions on her stopped, for he felt it wasn't his place to think about such things, being at least 4 years her junior. He had a habit of thinking about age due to his terminal condition. "I am honored to meet Lady Weiji, who has made a name for herself as the Cloud Sword Dragon." Wan Chang bowed. Manhwa reprimanded her disciples in their presence. It was only natural to feel favorably towards her. Yunshin felt the same. It was as if they had met a true warrior of the old sects they had only heard of in stories, and he clasped his hands following Haion Wan Chang. It was rude of the Zhongnan sect to come out so recklessly. "We are ashamed in front of Great Hero Weiji." He referred to her as Great Hero rather than Lady despite her not being a man. She had earned the nickname of Dragon even though she was not a man. She was a senior who roamed the martial world with a sword, like a hero. His words flowed naturally, owing to her vast experience and remarkable achievements. Manhwa's eyes softened. Even Haion Wan Chang, who uttered foolish sounds, seemed to understand her beauty. Though young Master Zhong drew his sword first, my disciple initiated the attack. I saw it all. As the representative of Zhongnan, I apologize. Her gaze on Yunshin was warm, and her words, representing the prestigious Zhongnan sect, felt surprisingly natural. Among the masters he had met in the martial world, she was as intense as Cheonju, the heavenly swordmaster of Manhua sect, and her grace seemed unparalleled. "We have kept our distinguished guests waiting too long. Let me guide you to our sect. We can discuss your purpose once we're there." "Thank you." After bowing once more, Yunshin noticed a familiar face in his view. It was his second brother, Zhong Jungsan, looking out of sorts. Hai is being taught by the Sword Immortal of Zhongnan sect. She isn't a formal disciple, but she's receiving teachings almost equivalent to that. He was surprised at Jungsan's words as they climbed the mountain together. The Sword Immortal was said to be a swordsman superior even to the Great Elder, Yi Il-sin. He rarely descended to the mortal realm, but his fame was known throughout the world. It meant that his niece, Zhong Hai, had her talents recognized. As he felt relieved, Jungsan gave him a complex look. "More than that, you have grown unbelievably strong. A formal warrior of Desolate Fortress. Grown strong? I am still far from it." Yunshin withheld his words even from his brother. The only person who knew of his lifespan issue was the Lord of Desolate Fortress. He had no desire to inform more people about it. Master Zhong's ambition is remarkable. You've already earned the white uniform and blue robe of Desolate Fortress. Weiji Manhwa seemed to like Yunshin. Every time she spoke, Jungsan's expression changed, indicating that even for a fellow disciple of the Zhongnan sect, her demeanor was rare. It's not ambition but desperation. When he thought it difficult to show respect to words that didn't resonate, the group reached the Zhongnan sect's mountain gate. "Welcome to our sect." The series of ancient buildings revealed behind the smiling Manhwa were quaint compared to Desolate Fortress, but the traditional power of the old sect was palpable. The buildings blending with the overwhelming mountain scenery were extraordinary at first glance. The head disciple and great elder are away fighting with the master of the tyrant sword sect. Since our guests are from Desolate Fortress, you should meet the highest-ranking elder left in our sect. While manhwa spoke, recalling the absolute swordsman who destroyed the Zhong family, Yunshin and Wan Chang reached the place called Sun Simgak. After climbing several steep mountain peaks, they encountered an old man and a young girl walking from the nearby training hall. The girl's eyes widened. "Uncle." Maybe because she had parted from her parents overnight, she ran to him with a longing look. "Hi, have you been well?" "Uncle." As he reunited with the tearful Hi, Wan Chang sniffled beside him. After gently putting down the child reluctant to part, he faced the old man watching him with a curious gaze. "Supreme Elder, they are from Desolate Fortress." Weiji manhwa spoke with a tone as if addressing her own grandfather. When Yunshin and Wan Chang introduced themselves with clasped hands, the old man, with hands behind his back, slowly spoke. "I am Zhongyou Illinois, the sword immortal of Zhongnan." Wan Chang exclaimed with a disbelieving expression and immediately covered his mouth, looking ridiculous, but no one blamed him. "Greetings, sword immortal." Yunshin calmly clasped his hands again. Having seen the Lord of Desolate Fortress up close, the fame of the sword immortal didn't shock him as it did High-on Wan Chang. They exchanged brief conversations. Officially, they were there to observe the effects of the great sect's conflicts on the common people. Personally, they were there to check on the safety of Yunshin's kin. As Zhongyou Illinois stared at Yunshin, he suddenly asked, "How old are you?" 16 this year. Would you like to see this?" Ignoring Yunshin's inner reluctance, the sword immortal pointed to one side. It was a place that had caught his attention. The rugged face of the cliff shrouded in faint mist bore countless marks. "Supreme Elder." Weiji manhwa, with a face that showed she couldn't understand, called him. "What are you saying to an outsider?" "The restoration of the 9-yang unified art is our sect's wish." The sword master was not of our sect. He was a guest invited by the former head disciple as a close friend. In his final years, he engraved his martial arts on Zhongnan Mountain, but it cannot be said to be our sect's ultimate martial art. No matter what. She frowned slightly, unable to accept it. The sword immortal laughed. "I don't have much time left. If he allows me to see the Sword of Grace again, then I will do what I must. Although you are said to be the only talent capable of restoring the 9-yang unified art, I cannot place my last wish solely in your hands." His tone was incredibly firm. Anyone could feel how strong the obsession he held in his final years was. "I can't understand. Even I can't grasp it, so what did you see in a mere acquaintance?" "Watch." As she followed the sword immortal's gaze to the cliff edge where Yunshin stood, manhwa's eyes widened. Standing at the cliff's edge, he was staring at the opposite cliff, with High-on Wan Chang nervously poised to grab him if he fell. He was lost in a trance. Anyone could see that. Sword scars. Yunshin thought. The various traces carved into the cliff bore sharp intent. They seemed like the overwhelming tracks of a sword that even time couldn't weather. Were they the scars left by an immortal? The sword scars running along the cliff didn't seem humanly possible. Unless one could walk on air, it didn't make sense. Those were carved by the sword master Jiyu Yangqian 59 years ago. The sword immortal of Zhongnan, who had approached, said. High-on Wan Chang was startled. "Sword master Jiyu Yangqian. Do you know him?" Yunshin asked, still focused on the cliff. "The sect founded by his expelled disciple is the Tyrant Sword Sect. In other words, the core of the Tyrant Sword Sect's swordsmanship originates from the Sword Master. He took my hand as a young boy and ascended Zhongnan Mountain. Only the Lord of Desolate Fortress, considered a divine demon, could rival him. This meant he was an absolute master." The sword immortal expressed his unfulfilled wish. At the end of his life, the old swordsman couldn't let go of his obsession, holding onto the sword of his benefactor. He didn't feel offended by calling the Lord of Desolate Fortress a demon. "Did the sword master bring you into the Zhongnan sect?" Yunshin asked. The sword immortal nodded. "Yes. He carried me, a starving orphan, up to the sect and handed me over to the former head disciple, asking him to raise me." "You mentioned a benefactor. Why couldn't you master his sword?" "My destiny didn't reach that far. Life is like that. I also lacked the talent." The sword immortal gazed at Yunshin, who was staring intently at the cliff. Many of our swordsmen have tried. However, it's not a sword path that can be mastered just by having broad knowledge or high martial arts skills. The experts of our sect agreed that only a brilliant inspiration could unlock the sword master's path. As Yunshin turned his eyes along the sword immortal's pointed finger, he slightly furrowed his brow. He focused to see more clearly. Within the mist on the cliff, there was a phrase written in a bold, flowing style. Whoever is worthy shall obtain it. It's completely a matter of talent. Our sect's hopes rest on manhwa. Even if she doesn't show it, I know it's a heavy burden. Only then did Yunshin take his eyes off the cliff and turn his head. Weiji Manhwa wore a complicated expression. Despite being called the Zhongnan sect's unparalleled genius, she didn't deny it. But that was all. She briefly met Yunshin's gaze, still unable to understand the situation. Yunshin thought that the sword immortal might be a higher master than his maternal grandfather, Ma Yunjiok. The only person who had penetrated his essence so far was the Lord of Desolate Fortress. Is it possible that they can't defeat the Tyrant Sword sect even with such a master? Whether Ma Yunjiok's skills had rusted compared to his prime or whether the sword immortal's martial arts were beyond public evaluation. For now, he was just grateful for another opportunity to become stronger. As he patted Hyara's head, who had come close to him, looking up. "What did you see?" the sword immortal asked. Yunshin silently drew his white desolate sword. Chapter 28, Zhongnan Sect, 3. At that moment. Bang, bang, bang. The originally clear sound of the bell rang with urgency. The faces of the Zhongnan sect members present changed rapidly. Tyrant Sword Sect. They're back again. Weiji Manhwa hastily turned towards the gate. Standing beside her, the sword immortal of Zhongnan gently touched the handle of his sword. "Young Master Zhong, take good care of Hyar. Have the guests wait here." They disappeared at an astonishing speed using their remarkable lightness techniques. The sword immortal of Zhongnan seemed to vanish almost instantly. Yunshin, who could only see the trailing hair of Weiji Manhwa, turned to Zhong Jungsan. "This isn't the first time, is it? Do they always fight like this? You never know where or how they'll strike. The main experts often clash just like now." Zhong Jungsan's expression darkened. The situation for the Zhongnan sect seemed dire. The sword immortal of Zhongnan, one of the few supreme masters in the old sects, was guarding the main sect. This clearly indicated a shortage of power. I've encountered the master of the Tyrant Sword sect several times. Even when the enemy who exterminated his family attacked, he remained unperturbed. At that time, my feelings were. Jungsan brushed his forehead. The once carefree older brother of the Zhong family was now a disciple of the Zhongnan sect, full of worry. Wan Chang stomped the ground. "Trouble as soon as we arrive. Isn't it time for the Desolate Fortress to step in? Even if you say that, it's not possible. A martial artist from the old sects becomes a corpse without their pride. Didn't we just experience that? If not for Lady Cloudsword Dragon, there would have been a major incident. It doesn't look so relaxed." Wan Chang couldn't refute Yunshin's final words. The shouts were gradually growing louder. The front lines were being pushed back. It seems the sword immortal is being held up. It's said that the Tyrant Sword sect has an elder council too. Among the 13 heavens, it's a sect with a notable history. When several elders of the Tyrant Sword sect work together, it takes time. This is how they've been fighting. Yunshin analyzed his enemies. It was only natural. The Tyrant Sword sect was the nemesis of his family. He had to know everything about them if he were to begin breaking their martial arts techniques. "Do not speak carelessly about the elder of our sect." It was a strange voice. Yunshin had already faintly sensed it. 5 warriors, who had been hiding to protect Hyar, who was acknowledged by the sword immortal, revealed themselves from the roof of the training hall. Each had a distinct aura, different from the likes of the Tyrant Sword sect. Yunshin slowly spoke. "I didn't think my words were rude. Speech and conduct vary by person. Don't you realize that the Desolate Fortress can never become an honored guest in the martial world?" Another warrior spoke, clearly not intending to back down easily. "The Desolate Fortress has many enemies." It was a realization. The Desolate Fortress was involved in disputes and interests across the entire Central Plains martial world. The leaders of the White Path sects, like the old sects, did not view them favorably. Moreover, the Sword Immortal had shown the legacy of the Sword Sect, raising expectations. It was said to be the wish of the Zhongnan sect. Even if it was not the primary discipline of the sect, the feelings were different. It was strange that young martial artists, whose vigor outweighed their training, did not feel jealousy. It was evident just from their expressions. Their discomfort was clearly visible. The main experts are not here, are they? Even a single hand seems valuable now. A single hand seems valuable? Do not insult our sect. Wan Chang's words had indeed crossed a line. However, the anger was short-lived. The Zhongnan sect warriors who had raised their heads turned to the side. Yuanxin and Wan Chang did the same. Some were approaching from a distance. There were 5 warriors, and their aura surpassed that of the 5 Zhongnan warriors. It was hard to believe. Yuanxin had passed several halls to get here, and yet the warriors of the Tyrant Sword sect had shown up. Kill the child first. He is continuing the Sword Immortal's progress. A man in an orange martial uniform, appearing to be the leader, spoke indifferently. The 4 beside him stomped the ground without even replying. The sound of wind tearing was heard as they charged. They were strong enough to leave footprints in the rock. How dare you! With a thundering sound, the blue tiles of the roof shattered. The Zhongnan sect warriors split the space. Clang! Flash! The collision of forces sent a strong wind blowing, whipping through their hair. Despite the clash of 4 against 5, it was evenly matched. Then, the strongest-looking warrior walked through the battlefield. The Zhongnan sect warriors were struggling just to hold off the 4. The approaching warrior, mocking their strained expressions, looked at Yuanxin, who was shielding High R, and smirked. You desolate fortress brats. What brings you to the old sects? Are you trying to balance things out again now that we are dominant? Yuanxin did not reply but looked at his second brother. They crossed several peaks to get here. It doesn't seem like the Zhongnan sect is in such a dire state. They must have infiltrated during the battle to target High R. Isn't that right? Why, yes. There seems to be no other reason. While Jungsan nodded in a daze, Yuanxin looked at Wan Chang. I need your help. Don't worry about the rear. Besides the composed Yuanxin, the only ones who seemed at ease at this moment were the enemy warrior from the Tyrant Sword sect and Haion Wan Chang. Wan Chang, in particular, even had a mysterious smile on his lips, looking oddly pleased. Then, Yuanxin did not engage the enemy directly. The warrior of the Tyrant Sword sect smirked as if finding it absurd. The Zhong family's dynamic qi surged through his entire body. The heavy force rose from his legs, stirring up dust. The next moment, the step he took was unmatched in power by anyone present. The violently stirred dust spread in all directions. Boom! The face of the Tyrant Sword sect warrior, filled with astonishment, was covered by the pure white desolate sword. The impact from his point-blank blast fist rose from his fist, tilting the air. Clang! Bang! The collision sent a fierce wind in all directions. The other battles momentarily halted due to the impact. The leader of the enemy group, barely blocking Yuanxin's strike, staggered back, prompting 2 others, who had been dueling with the Zhongnan sect disciples, to leap towards him. Yuanxin continued his sword strikes without pause, sensing Wan Chang's powerful presence beside him. Clang! It was an astonishing display. Wan Chang's reverse grip sword flashed between the scattering leaves. Entering a life-and-death struggle, he was completely different from his usual self. Clang! Crack! The unique technique of Demon's Light deflected the enemy's sword and pierced just below the collarbone. How had he mastered it to this degree? His indifferent expression while cutting down enemies was astounding. The aura of death, called killing intent, could be felt. It was clear again. Haion Wan Chang's life was not ordinary. Clang! Boom! The thoughts occurred subconsciously. Thanks to Wan Chang, the one-on-one situation was stable. He relentlessly pressed on, unleashing various secret techniques. The swift strikes of Demon's Light gave the enemy no room to breathe. A potentially fatal strike was dodged with a splendid wing step, with Yuanxin immediately countering. To have one's initial advantage taken by Yuanxin was like starting a game with several moves down, as he drove the desolate sword into the enemy's heart. The enemy didn't realize this. The warrior of the Tyrant Sword sect stammered with trembling lips. This, shallow sword art. Spurt! Time seemed to freeze as the sword was pulled out in a single motion. All battles ceased. The gathered gazes were filled with shock and awe. Amidst the roaring wind brushing against the peaks, Yunshin flicked his sword once and spoke. Shallow, indeed. I know. Having not properly learned a sword technique, he had created the swift strikes of Demon's Light. Looking around, Haiyan Wancheng had already dealt with the remaining warriors of the Tyrant Sword sect. It was like breaking through an enemy detachment in military terms. We overreacted. We apologize for the disrespect. May I ask who you were taught by? Demon Wings Yunshin. You will not forget it. Soon, it will be a name resounding throughout the martial world. The warriors of the Zhongnan sect, trained in the mountains, had a certain purity. After they received the grace of having their lives saved, and after witnessing Yunshin's martial prowess, they could not hide their admiration. They were eager to strike up conversations. They kept talking until Sword Immortal and manhwa returned after wrapping up the fight. The Zhongnan sect owes you a debt. I protected my family. The Sword Immortal of Zhongnan shook his head at Yunshin, who was gently holding Hai'er. Hai'er is destined to be the pillar of our sect following manhwa. As her uncle, what you did was only right, but the sect still considers it a great favor. I am grateful if you think so. Then, if it's not too much trouble, may I train here for a moment? You don't have to leave. I just need to capture the sensation that lingers in my mind. Inspiration was vibrating from the top of his head. Finding no suitable place, Yunshin seized the moment when the Sword Immortal mentioned the debt. Have you gained an insight? It seemed like a good idea. The Sword Immortal quickly made everyone leave. At the same time, Yunshin, after taking a glance at the cliff sword marks, drew his desolate sword. Every real battle brings something new. Thanks to the Tyrant Sword sect, he could refine his understanding. The sun's rays danced on the pure white blade that Yunshin held down. Then, following his arm movements, the sword began to trace a peculiar line. It was a smooth trajectory, devoid of any special momentum. The Sword Immortal's eyes widened, but the desolate sword soon dropped, and a rough breath escaped Yunshin's lips. Just moving the sword according to his inspiration was not enough. The chi didn't rise as he wished. Just as he had always created his own martial arts, the sword marks on the cliff seemed to be telling him to find his own path. I will not take the legacy of the Sword Master. Yunshin, after adjusting his breathing with Zhong family dynamic training, spoke. It's like saying, here is a path, think more broadly. That's how it felt to me. Even he wasn't sure what he was saying. Young Hai'er, Haiyan Wancheng, and Zhong Jungsan seemed equally puzzled. Only the Sword Immortal nodded as if understanding the essence. manhwa, standing beside him, made an expression difficult to read. It is said that the traces left by a Supreme Master contain a spiritual essence. It transcends the boundaries of martial arts and techniques. The Sword Master must have been like that. You connected with it. Your natural talent met with good fortune. Ah. Yunshin let out a short exclamation and closed his eyes briefly. He stayed in Zhongnan in his later years. He must have shared his insights with the masters of the Zhongnan sect. The techniques have a strong flavor of the Zhongnan sword style. It doesn't suit my body and isn't efficient for my practice. From the beginning, he created martial arts that matched his own body. The speed of his martial progress was different. He did not use others' martial arts because of this. Master Zhong, could you explain more clearly? Weiji manhwa's white face looked at Yunshin intently. Her gaze didn't waver. The Dragon of the Clouds, known for her elegance, was focused solely on Yunshin. The restoration of the 9 Yang Unified ART sword technique was a task given to me, Cloud Dragon. I can help a little. Can you really? Just a moment. My training is not finished. Manhwa closed her lips. Zhong Jungsan, opening his mouth to speak but quickly closing it, seemed to acknowledge that no one treated the chief elder this way. Yunshin's consciousness quickly immersed into the desolate sword. When he saw the sword marks on the cliff, he had a strange experience. It was an illusion, as if heaven and earth had collapsed into a single line. It was all a stroke of inspiration. If the sword extended faster than the opponent, it was enough. He now understood why techniques like the Taiji Wisdom Sword or the Plum Blossom Sword of manhwa were hailed as the pinnacle of martial arts. Exquisite sword techniques differed from mere swordsmanship. The intent contained in the principles was absorbed into the chi and swordsmanship, creating an unprecedented harmony. The Plum Blossom Sword of manhwa could create fragrant flowers with a blade. Such was the martial arts of warriors in the martial world. Until now, he had not understood the sword. With nothing else, I could only persist with the swift sword. It lacked depth. Now he understood. Wuong. A sword cry emanated from his grip. The desolate sword, adorned with sunlight along its blade, rose to the sky. The blade, drawing a graceful line, caught the light and descended, creating a streak of light that clearly separated heaven and earth. It was a sword dance. In that moment, the legacy left by the Supreme Master of the Sword Sect shone in the hands of the young Supreme Master. The sword did not stop at inheritance, but soared to another level above. Tears streamed down the wrinkled face of the sword immortal of Zhongnan, who had descended with the ages. Sword Master? Chapter 29, The Genius. Have you perhaps decided on a name for your sword technique? I have decided to call it Radiant Sword Style. In the place where the tea's aroma subtly rose, Wan Chang hesitated as he asked, and Yunshin answered. The Radiant Sword Style. He named it hoping his life would be as inextinguishable as the light filling the world from the sun, moon, and stars. The characteristic of the sword style, spreading radiance along its trajectory, also played a part. Ah. The resonance is better than I thought. Truly a pity. What name did you have in mind? I was thinking of calling it the light that cleaves the heavens and earth. The feeling I got from it was that if it reached its peak, it could encompass the world with a single strike. Yunshin silently sipped his tea. The taste that touched his tongue was exquisite. It was called Jingwei Fu tea, and the golden tea water represented the kind of treatment they were receiving from the Zhongnan sect. It was perplexing. The reaction of the sword immortal to the radiant sword style was unexpected. His gruff demeanor quickly turned affectionate. With teary eyes, he even hugged Yunshin. Compared to how he treated his second brother, Zhong Jungsan, it was like he was a different person. He saved his nephew and created his own sword technique. Even though he had done nothing for the Zhongnan sect, he was being treated as a distinguished guest, leaving him feeling bewildered and uneasy. However, Wan Chang seemed different. I would like to take some of this golden tea with me when we return. He seemed completely at ease, as if he had never wielded a sword with lethal intent. They spent some time conversing leisurely. The mission, as assigned by Ma Jin, was left to their discretion. The goal was to prevent civilian casualties or to deal a significant blow to the tyrant sword sect. They gained the favor of the Zhongnan sect. They would hear news of battles immediately. Master Zhong. A pleasant voice echoed from outside the door. It was the voice of Weiji Manhwa, the Cloud Sword Dragon. Leaving behind the envious face of Wan Chang, he exited the room. It was the same as their first encounter. She stood there with her unique feather ornament on her ebony hair. Dressed in a sky blue martial outfit with one hand resting on her sword hilt, she exuded various qualities. From what Yunshin briefly observed and heard, it was hard not to develop a liking for her as a martial artist. She had the courage to point out her disciples' mistakes without hesitation, a chivalrous spirit aimed at helping civilians, and the ambition of a swordsman pursuing higher martial arts. Her powerful martial arts, combined with these qualities, contributed to her being known as a dragon. I came to hear about what we couldn't discuss last time. Are you referring to the scars left by the sword master of the sword sect? She nodded. Although it's a shameful matter for our sect, I want to remove the shadow of the sword master's legacy. Both in chivalry and swordsmanship, I must walk my own path. I will become the supreme master. Her determination was evident as she spoke of her ambitions before a younger boy. After witnessing Yunshin's radiant sword style, her attitude subtly changed. It seemed her capabilities were indeed fitting for the title of the strongest prodigy of the Zhongnan sect. I will support you. Though her expression slightly faltered at his calm response, she quickly corrected herself. If you help me restore the 9 young unified art. Weiji Manhwa's red lips moved. I promise to serve you with gratitude for the rest of my life. You would greatly lessen the unsatisfactory time of my remaining days. The peaceful sunlight was shining brightly on the ground. Amidst the blend of the soft midday sun and the serene mountains, her voice resonated clearly. In the martial world, nothing was more dignified. Sharing martial arts held such significance. Do you accept? Manhwa's lips curved into a red and smooth line. Her request did not sound humble. The confidence overflowing from her eyes felt like an inextinguishable flame. Could it be the spirit of the prodigy standing at the pinnacle of a renowned sect? It did not mean she would stay by his side forever. It was a pledge to assist whenever possible as a martial artist indebted to him. Yunshin nodded readily. It won't take long. Amazing and delightful. Manhwa smiled slightly. They walked shoulder to shoulder. It felt strange, considering that this was the Cloud Sword Dragon of Zhongnan. To offer unilateral assistance to such a martial artist with considerable skills and experience. It was an unusual experience. They reached the edge of a cliff with a peculiar feeling. From afar, the Sword Immortal stood with his hands behind his back, watching them. His face had softened remarkably compared to when they first met. It had been that way since he saw the Radiant Sword style. Wan Chang had even whispered that he might ascend to the heavens if he kept smiling like that. First, I will explain the mnemonic chants. Did you just say mnemonic chants? Manhwa turned her head sharply. Her hair brushed against Yunshin's face, causing him to pat his own face. Seeing her embarrassment, he slowly opened his mouth. It won't be exactly the same. That part will be up to the Sword Dragon. He traced back the manifestation of the technique from the sword marks. He reverse-engineered the method of operating the chi completely. He didn't speak particularly about it. He was the main rising star of the desolate fortress, someone trusted by Chong Myong. He knew what to say and what not to say. The Cloud Sword Dragon seems trustworthy. Having the talent to steal someone's martial arts? It wouldn't be beneficial if rumors spread. Even now, Manhwa's tone had heightened significantly. Though it's said to be in the realm of enlightenment, how on earth did you? Her expression seemed to say there couldn't be anything like this in the world. Then my part would be. I will tell you the incomplete mnemonic chants. Your task will be to refine them close to completion. Was the conclusion difficult? Yunshin spoke without hiding his curiosity. It was a very simple task. It was on a different level from retracing the marks to recall each mnemonic chant. As she fell silent, the sun began to set. Manhwa disappeared for a while after receiving the mnemonic chants. According to the Sword Immortal, she had fallen into the temptation of heart demons. Even though she had an upright nature, one couldn't be free from one's mind. She was not a child who boasted of her martial arts. However, it seems she was shocked by your talent. The Sword Immortal of Zhongnan looked at Yunshin with a peculiar gaze. Among the peers in Shirangssi, there was no one who could rival her in terms of talent. Even including the manhua sect. When it comes to Shirangssi in the Central Plains, it can't be compared to a small country. She thought of herself as the best talent in the world. The best in the world. Yunshin muttered as if savoring the unfamiliar resonance. The Sword Immortal of Zhongnan slowly nodded. Yes. She felt her talent was insignificant for the first time. After seeing the real thing. It's meaningless. The Sword Dragon is a much higher level master than I am. Yunshin, pressed for time, found it hard to understand. One couldn't replace the current position with invisible talent or age. Seeing him shake his head, the Sword Immortal of Zhongnan chuckled. How fatally mistaken the heavens were. It wasn't enough to grant you talent, they even gave you the desire to seek what you lack. It is truly unfair to the world. Your words are embarrassing. They had become quite familiar with each other. Some people in the Zhongnan sect even said it seemed like looking at a grandson. Yunshin also found the Sword Immortal of Zhongnan much more comfortable than his maternal grandfather, Ma Yun-jiok. It was then. Elder, Master Zhong. The moment the voice echoed, she was already in front of them. Her pitch-black hair swayed gently over her sky-blue martial outfit, halted by her marvelous step technique. Cloud Sword Dragon. You're here. I knew you would overcome it quickly. It was Weiji Manhwa they had been talking about. She looked emaciated, almost to the point of appearing ghostly pale. After greeting the Sword Immortal, she respectfully saluted Yunshin. Her expression was resolute. Master Zhong, since you have learned the mnemonic chants first, can you demonstrate the sword technique? Yes, that's right. Can you help me practice the 9 Young Unified Art together? Practicing together will lead to faster progress. I am sorry. Yunshin shook his head. I don't even have enough time to practice my own sword technique. Ah. Unable to insist, she sighed regretfully. Seeing this, he slowly added. Since our origins are the same, it will suffice to observe each other's techniques. While I practice the Radiant Sword style, you can practice the 9 Young Unified Art. The same method he used to learn the step technique inspired by Chong Myong. Yunshin comprehended the martial arts of opponents he faced for the first time in battle. The custom of forbidding observing others' martial arts practice did not hold significant meaning for him. However, their reactions were different. For the first time, admiration appeared in Weiji Mayawa's eyes. "You are truly a great master, Master Zhong. Generosity should have its limits. The vessel that reaches the world is already complete." The sword immortal of Zhongnan sighed. His expression mirrored, showing increased goodwill. It seemed they were impressed not just by his talent but by his magnanimity. There was a deep sense of camaraderie in their expressions. Revealing one's realization and demonstrating a well-established martial art practice were entirely different matters. Misunderstandings are building up. Yunshin ceased his thoughts and headed to the training hall behind the main hall of the Sunshin Pavilion. He sensed the elegant presence of manhwa following him from behind. When he stood aside and looked to the side, she smiled brightly and stopped at her place. Almost simultaneously, they drew their swords. Xiang. Under the sun, the desolate sword appeared more mysteriously beautiful than before. The sword made by the dwarfs grew with its owner. Even if it was a mass-produced sword, it seemed to be the same. As it grew along with Yunshin's experiences and achievements, becoming imbued with the radiant sword style, no sword would suit him better. Radiance. He murmured inwardly and activated the mnemonic chants. The chi operation of the radiant sword style was fundamentally different from the Eternal Blossom Fist. Compared to the Eternal Blossom Fist, where each strike was a single, disconnected blow, the radiant sword style had a continuous flow. Yuang. He began to move the desolate sword with the mental image of sunlight pooling and flowing. As the blade, absorbing the light from the sun above, drew a circle down to the ground, there was no obstruction in wielding the sword. The radiance and wind clinging to the blade felt astonishingly familiar. Radiant sword style. This was because he had created it himself. "I am the master." At this moment, he fully realized. He was the father of this martial art. Ah. A sigh that didn't reach Yunshin's ears dispersed. The sword of Weiji Mayawa on the other side stopped. Standing still in her place, she watched Yunshin. Mayawa, who was moving her chi alongside him, performed the 9-yang unified art. Through her overwhelming experience and insights, she had advanced first. She reproached herself for feeling slightly relieved by the seemingly crude swordsmanship of Yunshin. But he swiftly caught up in the realm of proficiency. Yunshin, performing a dance of the sun with his sword. Both learned new sword techniques simultaneously, but their martial achievements were entirely different. It was obvious even at a glance. Both the 9-yang unified art and radiant sword style were unparalleled superior sword techniques. As she swallowed her silence, the speed of the desolate sword changed. Before long, the swift sword technique was being incorporated into Yunshin's sword style. Hwung! Hwung! Amidst the flowing radiance of the radiant sword style, Weiji Mayawa's sword descended slowly. The true dragon with the treasured pearl was elsewhere. A strange sense of defeat by overwhelming martial talent. Masters with deeply cultivated internal energy possess something called glint. It was the radiance that glimmered like a predator's eyes due to the chi. What am I? Weiji Mayawa's always clear and bright eyes became blurred. Her focus gradually disappeared. Chapter 30, Genius, 2. The mountains were bustling with activity. In the midst of repelling and recovering from the attack, the elite martial artists of the Zhongnan sect returned after attacking a branch of the sword sect. After a day of hearing the news, Yunshin and Wenchang were able to meet the ruler of Mount Zhongnan. They were accompanied by Elder Yi Il-sin, who had shown favor to Yunshin during the Zhong family's extermination. "You have done a great service." The sect leader of Zhongnan's sect was a man with an extraordinarily handsome appearance. His sharp, blade-like ears and the yellow robe he wore exuded the aura of a hero of his time. Swordmaster of the Western Heavens, Jiyu Yangqion. He was said to be the son of the sword sect and Yi Il-sin. He was known to be in his 70s but didn't look a day over 30. He was a mix of Han and Ming blood, evident from his ears alone. Little Hai R is privately watched over by the Sword Immortal. "You have saved a disciple of our sect, it is only right to reward you." Like most Ming people, he was exceptionally handsome, but his aura was different. He had a dignified presence befitting the leader of a sect. Jiyu Yangqion, staring blankly at Demon Wings and Yunshin, finally spoke. "Tell me what you desire from this sect." Yunshin felt the tremor from Wenchang beside him. It seemed he hadn't anticipated such a reward. It felt like he could hear the sound of a thoroughly blocked dantian rolling around. He hoped they wouldn't think of making an unreasonable demand. He didn't want to demean his status as a guest by asking for some elixir. He decided to speak first. Please allow us to assist in the fight against the tyrant sword sect. The person who responded was Yi Il-sin. She looked at Yunshin with a complicated expression and then slightly closed her eyes. She wanted to ask the reason for the Zhong family's extermination, but she didn't want to waste the opportunity with such an obvious question. Demon wings, the legacy of my father has been recovered by someone from the desolate fortress. Jiyu Yangqion spoke, showing a slight expression of interest. He did not pass on his secrets even to his son, despite being a disciple of another sect. It's an ironic thing. I didn't expect it to be taken by the desolate fortress. I only used it as inspiration for my swordsmanship. I will not learn or spread the 9 Yang unified art. Interesting. Fascinating. Perhaps he felt some persuasion in Yunshin's calmness. He saw a glimpse of Yunshin's unique temperament. He believed that the martial prowess of his grandfather Ma Yun-jiok had significantly diminished compared to its peak. Otherwise, the Sword Master of the Western Heavens and the Sword Immortal of Zhongnan wouldn't have seemed so intimidating. I heard you shared the formula through manhwa. That is also a great favor. I can't refuse if you wish to be at the forefront. Being at the forefront in a martial sect's battle was akin to being the face of the sect. The sect leader of Zhongnan's sect had greatly acknowledged him. Jiyu Yangqion's deep eyes didn't leave Yunshin. Even someone hailed as a sword master in the West couldn't be free from his father's influence. There seemed to be a faint mix of love and hate in his eyes. Yi Il-sin felt the same. The boy she saw during the Zhong family's massacre had restored her husband's swordsmanship. The workings of heaven are mysterious. How could the connection continue like this? I have something to ask the Great Elder separately. I couldn't hear it due to the urgency back then. At Yunshin's words, her face stiffened. Manhwa's sword was raised high, blocking the sunlight. A graceful high stance. The clear air of Mount Zhongnan mingled with the sunlight gently falling from the mid-sky. In the midst of this, her lone sword was anything but peaceful. The 9 Yang unified art was a single strike attack, true to its name. Yunshin, who created the flow of swordsmanship through the repetition of a single sword strike, was peculiar. Who? The sword path, which should have cut down 9 suns simultaneously, was disrupted. The Sword Immortal, watching from the side, clicked his tongue. You can't focus at all. I'm sorry. I'm only making it messy. Is it because of Yunshin? Manhwa shook her head. No, it's my heart that's the problem. She had already fully acknowledged Yunshin's sword. Manhwa's heart demon didn't stem from jealousy. She wasn't so narrow-minded. It was just that her own martial prowess, which she had diligently built up and refined along with her life, seemed futile. It was closer to emptiness than jealousy. His sword technique, the radiant sword style, isn't inferior to the 9 Yang unified art. Am I correct in my observation? Indeed. The Sword Immortal answered briefly. There was no need to elaborate further on Yunshin's martial arts. It wasn't at the level of a first achievement. While sparring with me, he surpassed the first achievement and reached the second and third. It's unbelievable that he created such a supreme martial art, but the achievement of mastering it without any prior experience and surpassing my 9 Yang unified art is even more so. That child has already achieved your goal. When Manhwa lowered her sword and looked at the Sword Immortal, he continued speaking slowly. He is a grandmaster who transcends age. It's natural for him to master his own created martial art quickly. Everything in human affairs and learning is the same. The creator's body is bound to fit best. There isn't a single martial art in the world that doesn't fit this way. Is he someone with unprecedented talent that even I can't follow? Shaolin Da Mo and Wudang sect founder Sam Bongjin were also like that. Living in the same era as such a grandmaster can be a blessing depending on how you look at it. Even you have inherited the 9 Yang unified art. You're right. It's a grace beyond measure. Manhwa faintly smiled. It was a smile of resignation. The tormenting anguish was forcibly suppressed thanks to the discipline she had built as a Shonan disciple. Her pride as a sword dragon and youthful fervor cried out not to be overtaken, but she couldn't bear to turn her back on Yunshin forever. In the near future, Manhwa would be watching Yunshin's back. She decided to accept it. The soft wind gently brushed her silky hair. However, her grip on the sword didn't immediately tighten. She was preparing to step down from the peak of her peers. There was no way her energy could be full. I didn't want to say this. Sword Immortal sighed. Although he considered Yunshin like a grandchild, he couldn't compare to manhwa, whom he had truly raised as his own. You must listen and keep it to yourself. What? It's about Yunshin. That child's Baihui point is communicating with nature. As manhwa looked puzzled, he continued. It was a subtle change, but it was different every day. He is excessively absorbing the power of heaven and earth. It's not good at all. Even a top-notch martial artist can't handle it. What do you mean? He doesn't have much time left. Yet he struggles like that, as if trying to leave his mark on the world. Shocked by his words, manhwa's eyes widened. The Sword Immortal, with his hands behind his back, was already staring blankly at a cloud-covered mountain peak. Regardless of martial prowess or age, I have nothing but respect for Yunshin. After the conversation with Jiyu Yangqion and Yi Il-sin, news came that the Sword Sect had sent a challenge letter. It was said to be short but intense. Let's have a battle 3 days after Yushui won. It was the end of February. In the martial world, a battle meant a full-on confrontation risking a sect's fate. It was completely different from the sporadic skirmishes until now. It was a direct confrontation between one of the 13 heavens and one of the 9 great sects. It was an event that would shake the martial world. The date of the decisive battle approached quickly, giving little time for the sects across the central plains to react. Hung tilde. The wind sweeping across the vast Guanzhong plain felt harsh. It was said that manhwa had earned her title of Cloud Sword Dragon here after cutting down the head of a demonic sect. Yunshin stared ahead among the disciples of the Zhongnan sect. A force of around 200 people was brimming with sharp energy. The Tyrant Sword sect of the 13 heavens. It was a sect that sought the most tyrannical power in the world. At the forefront stood a familiar figure. The Tyrant Sword sect leader. His expressionless face was familiar. He still stood with a huge sword planted in the ground, showing his energy without restraint. Even from a distance of 1,000 steps, the overwhelming energy wave hit them. Now that he had properly mastered martial arts, he could comprehend how absurdly powerful the man had become. That man is your enemy, Master Zhong. Wan Chang, who knew his comrade's story, said while glaring ahead. He had grown deeply attached somehow, showing no sign of retreat. Yunshin saw for the first time in Heian Wan Chang the qualities that could be called those of a divine hero. With gratitude in his heart, he walked forward. The sect leader of Zhongnan, sword master of the Western Heavens, Jiyu Yangqion, stood gazing ahead. At that moment, someone from the Tyrant Sword sect stepped forward and shouted. The third disciple of the sword sect leader. I, Wei Mu Hyok, challenge anyone to receive my sword. It was a challenge for a vanguard duel. It was a common practice in martial disputes for middle-level masters to fight as a means to gauge the opponent's strength and to break their spirit. It was something Yunshin had experienced once through Manhua sect's Yu Haion. I will present my request now, sect leader. Go ahead. Jiyu Yangqion turned his head. Their eyes met. As someone who has recovered the legacy of the Sword Sect's Great Elder and the Great Elder's husband, I humbly request to step forward as a guest of Zhongnan sect. Master Zhong. manhwa, who always wore a strange expression when looking at him, stared at him with mixed feelings. Yunshin slightly bowed and looked at Jiyu Yangqion. I can do this. It was a place unfit for her to step up. Wei Mu Hyok was slightly older and had a different level of fame. Jiyu Yangqion nodded slowly. If victory was necessary, there was no better choice among his peers than Yunshin. Go ahead. Thank you. After bowing, he stepped forward. manhwa, standing among the elders of Zhongnan sect, watched Yunshin's back. Her gaze didn't leave his departing figure. A supreme master burning himself to right the traces of his life was standing there. He is already a splendid young man. The Sword Immortals lament scattered in the air. Zhongnan sect's fate is sealed. Facing Yunshin, Wei Mu Hyok's first words were these. He looked about 17 or 18, transitioning from a boy to a young man. He was not only armed with a dazzling precious sword but also wore a splendid crimson robe. Yunshin vaguely remembered seeing him at the Zhong family's place. He was one of his enemies. Wei Mu Hyok sneered as he looked Yunshin up and down. You, I remember. From the Zhong family? You were hopelessly floundering. I should have killed you then. Lucky for you to be standing in front of me now. You couldn't do anything back then, could you? It's a martial artist's fate to die by the sword. What excuse would the former sword master have to interfere? It would only damage his reputation. If you think it will be the same as last time, it's truly pathetic. Wei Muhyok exuded arrogance throughout his entire body. He was a nobleman in all but name. A disciple of the sword sect leader. I can take my revenge and gain merit. Yunshin silently drew his sword. His gaze was fixed far beyond Wei Muhyok to the tyrant sword sect leader standing behind him. The sharply defined face was still as indifferent as back then. Now, die. As Wei Muhyok spoke and unleashed his sword attack, his demeanor was typical of a demonic sect martial artist, unconcerned about where his opponent's attention was. Xiong! Wak! The explosive energy wave generated a gust of wind. Their swords clashed, unmoving. Wei Muhyok's expression shifted, finding the unyielding sword force unexpected. Not bad. Yunshin didn't respond. Now that he had properly mastered swordsmanship, he could see the flow of his opponent's blade. His opponent's sword was no different. He suddenly recalled the time when Chong Myong had tested him upon his initial entry into Demon Wings. He slowly opened his mouth. A Ming person I know once said, "They judge a person's potential by their sword wind." So that's what he meant. As Yunshin smiled, Wei Muhyok felt a chill run down his arm. Radiant sword style. The blade in Yunshin's hand absorbed the sunlight. Simultaneously, a faint light beam burst forth, pushing the intersecting swords away. What? Yunshin's hand didn't stop. Enveloping his body in wind, he passed Wei Muhyok with a swift step. At the end of the sword strike, which cleaved from the neck down, Wei Muhyok's head fell. With a thud, the body collapsed. Without looking at the corpse, he sheathed his sword. For a moment, silence blanketed the plains. Footnotes. 1. The traditional Chinese calendar divides a year into 24 solar terms. Yushui, Yuzui, Yuzuzu, or Vu Tui, literally meaning rain water, is the second solar term. It begins when the sun reaches the celestial longitude of 330 degrees and ends when it reaches the longitude of 345 degrees.